So McLaren, Team Papaya finished 4th in the Constructors last season, but will they be the ones to take the fight to Red Bull come Bahrain in just a few weeks' time? Hi there and welcome back, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Amy and I have a somewhat unhealthy obsession with Formula 1. On today's agenda we are talking about everyone's favourite orange team. It's McLaren. McLaren is one of those teams that is obviously hugely popular. This is thanks in part to its legacy. It is one of the oldest teams on the grid, and also to its driver lineup. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are both extremely popular drivers, but it is also one that excites me greatly, and one that I will take great joy in supporting next year. Maybe that's just the Aussie bias though. Anyway, there are actually a few reasons behind this, so let's get into it. First off, let's start with the hype. The whisperings, the rumours that everyone's been hearing. There are very few people I've spoken to in this sort of motorsport space who don't think McLaren is going to go extremely well next season, who don't think that they will be up there with Red Bull. Now, let's not kid ourselves, of course Red Bull is probably going to dominate another year, or like 3, until we get the new regulations, but until then, I think McLaren could be a really good contender. They just have this certain buzz about them at the moment. They are very much in the comeback era. The new livery that they just dropped out of absolutely nowhere. It looks fire, by the way. I love that livery. I am a sucker for the darker liveries, and they fully just dropped the blue. It's gone all black and papaya. Chef's kiss. And I can't wait to see it on the actual 2024 car. Either at the actual drop, which is in 2.5 weeks on Valentine's Day, so you'll know how I'll be spending my day, or my pre-season texting. They've also removed all of the posts on IG, which is kind of a bold move from a marketing perspective. It worked though, it definitely worked. You can be like, okay, Villanera coming up, we can see it. We can see them just doing this whole rebrand. The last thing they need to do is just change the merch up a little. Not a fan. But this whole darker aesthetic that they're coming into is definitely adding to the hype train. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, McLaren, what are you doing? So from that perspective, the hype, incredibly real. And that is really important going into car launch season, when this is what people decide who they're going to support coming up in the next few weeks. So yeah, building upon that hype from last season, the groundwork that they laid from the progress essentially over the last couple of months, that hype is just going to keep building. I've said hype way too much in this video already. Speaking of last season, the progression was absolutely insane, from Lando finishing 17th and having to actually retire Oscar out of the first race in Bahrain, to by mid-season being up there, competing for podiums, getting the sprint race wins. They were doing it all besides, winning a race. So that progression, mind-boggling to think about. To be fair, there was Aston Martin at the start of the season. They made that huge jump over the summer break, but to do it over the season whilst also focused on the actual races, also focusing on developing the next year's car, very impressive. They said at the start of last season that they weren't happy with the car, that they weren't happy with the progression, and that this wasn't where they wanted to be starting the year. So hopefully they have learned over the course of the last 12 months, and they're not going to be starting the season on the back foot again, because I think that would be a real shame. Because I feel like they do this quite often, where they'll make a huge leaps during the season, and then they'll just be behind the competition come the first race of the season. So hopefully they've actually learned and they're not going to do that again, because again, real shame. It would be nice to see them start with just a banger of the car, and if the last season's progress is anything to go by, I think that is highly likely. But why am I putting so much faith in McLaren, you may ask? Why not Mercedes? Why not Ferrari? Okay, let's get into it. So I think the first thing we should start, first off, let's start with Ferrari, just get that one out of the way. I know people have been fooled by putting their faith into Ferrari before, and it just hasn't gone their way. From what I can see, this is the same as Mercedes. They didn't make leaps and strides throughout the season, and since the new regulations have actually come into place, they've sort of been more static, if that makes sense. You see a lot of the teams further down the grid making bigger jumps, and that's probably because they are able to, because they do have that much more to catch up with the bigger teams. They have such big facilities, so much money, And I think with Ferrari, I know they had to like ditch so much of the staff, so it's a bit like unstable at the moment. Obviously, new team principal, they could start to see the effects of that going into next season, whether it's going to drastically improve the car or not. Again, yet to be seen. Both Mercedes and Ferrari banging lineups, to be fair to them, some of the best drivers on the grid, but that also comes with them butting heads. Carlos and Leclerc, we've seen it a few times, and then particularly last season, considering George Russell beat Lewis Hamilton, not last season but the season before that. Lewis, he had a point to prove, and George also had a point to prove, being the new boy in the team, so we have seen them butt heads as well. Whereas over at McLaren, that teammate relationship remains pretty good, pretty amicable. I feel like Lando gets on with all his teammates. Oscar's young, he's a rookie, he's still learning the ropes. And I feel like as long as they can manage that driver lineup, they're going to be leaps ahead of the competition. You know what I mean? Let's actually talk about that lineup for a second. Controversially, in my opinion, one of, if not the best lineup on the entire grid. They're both young, talented, fast. Like, that lineup has legs, if that makes sense. Like, I can see that lineup years into the future, whereas if you look at a team like Mercedes, Hamilton, Russell, incredible young driver, he's probably going to stay there for a while. Hamilton, also obviously incredible driver, but he is almost 40, he's like 37, 38 at this point. He might be looking to other endeavours, especially over the next few seasons, and maybe Mercedes will be looking for new drivers to replace him. You know, the longevity of that lineup isn't as long as at McLaren when it's like a 23 and a 21-year-old, you know what I mean? And obviously Red Bull has stated that they look to poach Lando Norris from there. So again, very good driver lineup. Ferrari sides on Leclerc. Again, Ferrari has this problem where they pick a first driver. Now, it's not an issue if you're fighting for the title, but if you're fighting second or third, one of them's going to get pissed off and want to move to another team to be the top driver, which makes sense. It might just be the Aussie bias here, but Oscar Piastri, one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen last year. Since Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, those were amazing rookie seasons. I think Oscar's is up there. So next year, he's going to be even better. I am fully on the Piastri hype train, okay, ready for him to get his first win, ready for Lando Norris to get his first win as well. Again, these two drivers are just so young and they have so much room to improve and grow that I think if McLaren can give them that car, who knows? Especially with Lando, I reckon if McLaren gave Lando the right car, he could fight for the title. That's controversial to people like he can't. I think he can. I have faith in my boy, okay? So to conclude, yes, I think McLaren are going to be the ones to challenge Red Bull in 2024. They are on the best trajectory to do so. They have really good facilities, a really good team, a supportive fan base, and an incredible driver lineup that, if all these elements line up, yes, they're the ones. Do I think they will beat Red Bull to the title over the course of a season? No, I absolutely don't, but I feel like that's something we can all agree on. Anyway, that brings this video to a wrap. Drop a like if you liked it and press the red button to subscribe for more F1 and motorsport related content. Comment down below if you think McLaren are going to be the ones to challenge Red Bull, or if you think it's going to be a Mercedes, a Ferrari, even Aston Martin. And I will see you all in the next one. Laters!